So today is the DDA meeting, Downtown Development Authority meeting. It is Wednesday, May 21st, 2025, and it's 6:02 p.m. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very good. Mrs. Harper, do you mind doing a roll call?
Sure.
And I got a roll call sheet for you. I think I emailed it to you, but.
You did, but I forgot it. So, there you go. Let's see. Okay, Supervisor Fail,
File. Chuck, here.
David Gittens,
Here?
Sam Morocco,
Here.
John Doolin, absent,
Mm-hmm.
Tara Hansen,
Here.
Gus Zatona,
Here.
and Kim Harper.
All right, very good. Sorry, we passed that down to Gus. So next order of business, we need to approve the minutes from the April 16th, 2025 meeting. Somebody like to make a motion to do so?
I'll move to accept the minutes as presented.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Moving right along, we don't have any public comments. We can probably just jump down to I. Now, the first order of business we want to, oh, yes, okay. So-
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
All right,
Second.
Second.
all right. All those approved?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Sam. So now, before we make this motion, last time we talked, we got together and some of you guys had some questions about the banners and the banner company, and will the cost include design? So I talked to the signs company, and they said that yes, that does include the design. I brought a couple examples, but this is, just keep in mind, these are just examples of things that they threw together, and everything else can be edited. One thing that you mentioned, Supervisor, was that you wanted to make sure that it had the logo for the township, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's something that's definitely going to be included on there. And the cost hasn't changed at all. It's my understanding that within the DDA, we have a limit to where we don't need to go in front of the trustees to ask for permission, and that's $15,000. And so this falls right in line. If we get 224 by 36 inch banners, then that will be exactly $15,000. We'll have to separately from Dave McKee, we've talked about getting brackets for that because they're more affordable than through the signs company. But this is something that I think we've discussed quite a bit, and I'm hoping that we can move forward to get it done, and I'm hoping that we can get these up just in time for the 4th of July, and I think it'd be great for us to have.
Pass them.
Yeah.
Show her now.
Say, Happy Independence Day. I think that's just going to show good faith that the DDA is working in the favor of the citizens, and they know that we're putting in work. Yes, question.
So I found out today, which I'm hoping we did, MDOT has to approve all of them. So you have
Okay.
to send
Yes,
it to them.
yes.
And have they approved it?
They have not.
Okay,
We
so-
first have to, I think, as DDA, approve that we're even going to do this.
Okay.
Right, and then, yes, there might be some permitting. It doesn't sound like, I talked to Dave McKee about this, it doesn't sound like they're gonna give us any pushback, but yes, because they control the Dixie, we're gonna need permission.
Yeah, but I mean,
Yeah.
as far as the material goes, the height, the dimensions, the colors, everything, because the village went through it, and they were telling me that they had to submit 2 different versions in order to get it through, so
Okay, well, that's fair enough.
keep it on the radar, I guess.
Again, so I think today we would just be making a motion to move forward to having having them do the design. We'll obviously keep that in line with what MDOT allows us to do. But this would allow us to start the process for the design. And hopefully that's a quick process.
I'll make a motion, if you, we're not gonna have any
Any
more
other-
discussion.
any
Are
other
those the
questions?
four that we're going with, or are those
No,
just?
that's just a mock what they can do. They literally did that, I think, in a few minutes. They've done a number of other townships, I believe. They did Bloomfield and some other places too. But that was recommended by Kendall, our former member of the Chamber of Commerce. She recommended them as a company. They've used them in downtown. And it's a reputable company. They've been super easy to communicate with, which I appreciate.
No, I would make a motion to direct the chairman of the DDA, David Gittens, to contact the sign company and authorize them to come up with final concepts for us to approve with the sign size parameters, fabrics, materials, and bracketry to meet the standards of MDOT and the road commission, and then present them at the future meeting for approval.
Can we just add the caveat that we're not gonna send money until MDOT approves it?
Yeah, that's why I think if we can get the design to match their specs,
Okay.
it would cover us, I think.
Can we check with the village since they've had the specs before and make sure we make them as close to those specs because they probably haven't changed? Then we wouldn't have to recycle and do it again perhaps.
Well, MDOT's probably got the documents to just give the sign company, or the sign company would know, that I would think, that they got it,
I don't know
Right,
if there's
Dave?
different districts, if there's different sizes based on closeness, or, I don't.
It's possible, because M15's a state road and Dixie's a highway, right? Is under a different jurisdiction, or no?
Dixie?
Is Dixie under?
No.
MDOT still
Huh?
in.
It's probably the state.
So both are the same? Okay, so we should be. Because that's what you're saying, Dave, we're gonna just have them come up with a couple, like maybe two springs, two of each of them to pick from or something? Is that because this is a concept, are they gonna bring us a newer, how are we gonna get to the final design?
That's gonna be based on our idea, but it'll definitely have to fall in line with what MDOT allows us to do, right? So maybe that's too vibrant of colors, so we'll have to, fit in line of what MDOT. So I'll get to work right away getting with MDOT to find out, what type of parameters we have to fit inside of.
Do they maybe have a website for standard designs that we might be able to use and?
They pretty much said that they can create anything that we want, so it's, they have the printing capacity to be able to print whatever we want. But, I just kind of gave them an idea of what we're looking for, and they gave me that very quickly. So maybe we want to change the font, maybe we want to have Independence Township on the bottom, and then something bigger. Maybe we want it to look completely different, and they're willing to do that.
How are we gonna get to that point, though,
That's-
if they don't give us a couple examples to pick from? I mean, do you wanna get into that deep into the weeds of it?
I don't, but they have a design team that will help us to
Okay.
come up with design.
So next step would be, from my motion, that they would come back with concepts that meet the standards of MDOT, but then a couple of designs for each of the four seasons for us to select from and possibly make a tweak or edit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're not going to spend any money
Okay.
until we just find out what
Yeah.
MDOT wants. But again, I'm not going to even proceed with checking with MDOT until we decide if we're going to move forward with this. Which we've been talking about this for almost a year now, maybe longer, and I think we.
Okay, I'll
Yeah.
second it.
Okay.
All right. All those.
Or-
Is this a roll call item? Okay. So we'll just go down the line. Supervisor File, you already seconded it, so,
Yeah, so I'm a yes.
okay. Dave Giddens, I'm a yes. Kimberly Harper,
Yes.
Tara Henson,
Yes.
Sam Morocco.
Yes.
John Doolin's not here. Gus Siltuna?
Yes.
All right, very good. We're all in favor of this. Very good. All right, so next item, we want to discuss the Board of Townships vote to change the procurement policy, which was at last night's meeting. How did that go? Did we make any movement on changing procurement policy?
Well, I thought-
You guys were at the meeting, so I
I
was
didn't know
not.
if you wanted to address this or not.
You can, however you want to, you present how we left it. So,
Because this, let me just say this, because this is going to decide how we move forward with the design, the engineering. We have the surveying done of the pocket park, right? So we were trying to maybe bypass the way that we go about things for the design and not having the Carlisle Group do an RFP for the design or create the design for us. Maybe go directly to landscaping companies to provide the design. We would still need all of the engineering for all the underground work and any irrigation that we need and electrical. But it sounded like we were going to go in front of the township board to see if they were going to allow us to change things up. So how did that go?
I guess I'll comment. I'll
So
shoot it
are we
for
allowed
it.
to discuss things that happen in private closed session? I don't
Probably not
think-
in detail.
Right.
But we did have a discussion about the way that we would, that, one of the things that we did talk about was that we were going to move forward with legislation that would allow us to make selections of contracts with the authority of our board after the budget for that item's been approved by the board, so that we don't have to go to the board for approval to hire each of the people. So for instance, if we have in the budget money for the flags and they've approved the budget for the flags, we don't need to go to the board for the money for the budget for the flags. So that's gonna cut back a lot of, especially if the board's not meeting as frequently, it's gonna expedite things. So as long as we have it in the budget, which we do have a budget now for certain things, that would be, that would, they were gonna work up something on that we would be able to do, have the authority, which is not uncharacteristic of the DDA or the CIA. If you have, if it's a pre-approved budget item, that's gonna expedite it for us, so we'd be able to sign a contract with the sign guy, with landscape or whatever, as long as that's been approved in the budget items, with the comfort level that there's a board member, a supervisor, that there's other, some representation of the board monitoring that, instead of every dollar going back and asking for permission. So I think that was, do you agree?
Yeah, I would just say that the policy is going to be modified. We have to come up with a formal policy that outlines it and streamlines it and get their vote on it.
Okay, but as of yesterday, you guys didn't do a public vote.
We didn't
to
do a motion on it.
Determine if we were going to change the current procurement policy.
We had a discussion regarding the option of changing it.
Okay,
We are going to now bring forth
Suggested
made,
policies.
that will outline what exactly we're talking about. But at a core, there's still going to be a budget requirement, which we have, so that, or if we have to bring something else and that isn't, we have to make an amendment to the budget, and the Board of Trustees has to approve it. But otherwise, it'll streamline it significantly.
There still was discussion that we are gonna have to have consultants and engineers, for oversee projects and make sure that the money's being spent right, because none of us have the time to do it or create those types of legal documents.
Yeah, I'm just a little iffy on how much you can say because it was done in closed session.
okay.
So
Well,
let's just put it this way, there'll be a mate presented at the next board meeting to make all the changes as we've discussed in the past.
okay. Well, I'll say this, that the whole reason why we wanted to go this route was to cut time. Time is not on our side. It's already spring, it's almost June. Landscapers aren't doing much in the wintertime. So I feel like if this was at an effort of just taking out the design portion of what the Carlisle Group was going to do, you know, any type of design or landscaping company, they, you know, are going to incorporate their cost of work, hours worked, whatever they're putting into their design into the project, right? So we're still gonna be paying for it. So it's not like it's going to be a free service. So if we're trying to, you know, maybe not use the Carlisle Group for that one portion, you know, if it could have been expedited quickly, I think that would have been a fantastic idea, but I feel like we've already burnt a month or more just trying to get to this point, and we're kind of still hitting dead end. So maybe this is an approach that will be great for other future projects, but I personally feel like if the Carlisle Group has the capacity to give us the design, stick to the current protocol, and get us moving forward with this pocket park, then I think that that's something that we should explore or vote on or something, because, you know, to me, you know, we knocked down this building, we purchased the building to be knocked down, and now it just stands empty, and we're just kind of at a standstill waiting to
I understand.
proceed, but we have a company that's willing to proceed on our behalf, but we're trying to see, well, maybe this way will work, but maybe it won't. And so then we'll come back to, all right, well, now you go, and maybe at that point, they can't get started right away either. That's how I feel about the situation. So,
I
Mr.
think
Rock.
that we put a lot of effort in trying to find a way to make it local, to local contractors and work it out. It just, as you said, it's been cumbersome to try to pull it off. We do have a proposal already from Carlisle Group to do the final park drawings, all the design work, itemize every plant, give us everything we need to manage it correctly. Then that would give us the tools we need to send it to the engineering company to get a proposal for them to do the engineering, which I think that's the biggest issue, is even if a landscaper in this particular project comes through with a design, is it gonna be specific enough to manage each line item very specifically, and then effectively have them warranty it, and it be detailed enough to give to the engineers to do the engineering. You know, because I don't want to do that and then give it to the engineers, and they're like, well, this isn't really accurate enough for us to work off of, and then we're bouncing back and forth, you know? So we met with Carlisle and Wortman, and we gave them the same parameters that we gave everybody else, so everybody knows what we're thinking. I think that they're very aware of our budget, you know, that we want to do it tight, but I think to expedite things, to dot the Ts, and, you know, dot the Is and cross the Ts, and to get it going faster, that it might just be the best plan, is to just get them to finish it, do the drawing, gives us the legal documents we need, send it to the engineers, then we get the RFP, and then at that point, we really work on the local contractors to give us the very best possible deal doing their hometown project, you know, but then we got everything all in black and white, you know. And then hopefully, because the prices of everything keeps going up too, so the longer we wait, we're not really still saving. And then the second half of it is that we're gonna need Carlisle Wortman and the engineers to, if we do the moving of the sidewalk project, if we do road improvements, you know, I mean, there's just a lot of stuff that there's nobody in the township that's job is to do it if we don't get somebody to kind of guide us with it. And Dick really has stayed on because this is kind of his pet project to help us with the DDA. He's already removed himself from the daily planning commission stuff, and this was kind of his last thing for the township that he wanted to do with us, and I think he's, you know, I want to give him a chance to do it, and he certainly knows we want to be frugal, so, you know, and have him help us push this through.
Do we have a rough idea what it'll cost for Dick to do this?
He's already given us a number, it's $5,000. And that's for him his design team to design 2 different concepts. And then, but it's more than just, you know, pictures like we've seen before. This is gonna be integrated. How's it gonna work? Where's the water flow gonna go? Where's the irrigation? How's the water gonna come away from it?
Which plants, you know, everything.
So that we can then take that and say, hey, landscapers, we want this. you know,
Well, first we
maybe you
gotta
can
go to the
tweak it a little
engineers
bit.
first, after Dick. We gotta go to the engineers, then to the
Okay.
landscaper, just because that adds to it. Sorry.
That's fine. But then we can take that RFP and bring it to the landscaping company and say, this is what you have to work with. Because I feel like the way we tried to do it was like, you're the artist, you know, bring us what you have. And then we got 3 very different designs, one from grass to almost exactly what we're looking for, to very elaborate. This might be,
But this will come with line items of exactly what we need,
What
where what
type,
we had
how
before
many
didn't have
trees.
that, so you're still in the guessing game of what you still need.
Right,
Or
it
you're
showed
based off on a
vegetation,
drawing,
but
but
it-
you have no idea what you're really putting out there.
It showed vegetation, but it didn't say like which each plant was, or, you know, all of that, which we kind of would expect.
yeah.
Then the engineers are gonna do the drainage, if we're gonna do a rain garden, if we need to, you know, hook up to the storm, if we're gonna, you know, what the grade's gonna be, the sidewalk specs, you know, for the truck, like all that'll be provided to bid against, to make sure that everybody understands if we want wire mesh in the concrete for the DPW trucks, if we don't, if there's water, if there's a well, you know, how the power's gonna go to the pole, like all those details are intricate beyond the shrubbery, you know, and that's what I think is gonna also take a bunch, you know, could take time to do, you know,
Yep.
but.
Any thoughts from this side of the board?
No.
Not at all? I know most of us want to see things get done. I drive past that empty lot every day, and I'm like,
Me
man,
too.
there should be something there.
I think it would be more straightforward to have Dick do it and be able to take it to your landscapers and say, okay, here's what we need done exactly, and have your landscapers bid on it, and then you have a price and everybody is the same, rather than we have three different prices and totally across the board.
So my only comment is what did we tell the people that we already contacted?
We haven't told them
How did
anything.
that-
I mean, we told them,
did it
we told
switched
them up
around?
front that we weren't sure if that was even an option for us to go that way. What we will also tell them is that, you know, if we decide to go this route, they can either keep the designs as is or resubmit.
But at this point, it's not really an option for us to go that route if the board hasn't approved it. Are we gonna just wait then for the board to make changes to the
Well,
plan?
No, we're saying to keep it.
Right, but I mean, to use the 3 quotes we have right now, we don't really have approval from the board to do
Yeah,
that.
we can't do that.
So, we're not,
well, none
we're
of
telling
them,
the landscapers we can't do that because we can't, right now, we don't have approval from the board to do that.
Yeah.
and none of them were detailed enough to work off of. They were concepts plans, which we asked for, which we've all agreed that if we get an RFP, we're gonna make really sure that those people get to participate, you know, make sure they're involved in bidding and off of the RFP, so that it didn't, you know, they have as good of opportunity as anything to make sure that they're involved. But nobody submitted plans that were detailed enough to do what we needed them to do, because we were asking for concept plans in the beginning.
Yeah. But to answer your question, Mrs. Harper, is they are going to be notified that, you know, this is the township's policy, and that they'll have to resubmit according to the RFP. So, but we told them up front that we were trying something completely new, something that was going to try to, you know, hyper-focus local talent to be able to bid it, and that there's a possibility that we might not be able to do that. But
So my understanding is at this point that what we're discussing right now is the Carlisle Wortman designing, coming up with the concept, saying this is it, and then you will go back out for bids
yes, and that will be within the procurement policy that we currently have.
that the township has.
Well, by the time that happens, I think that we're hoping that we can adjust the procurement policy, which would make, and parts of the changes that we talked about, changing the procurement policy would be making it easier for local contractors to compete once the RFP comes out. So
the change of the procurement policy still does what we wanted it to do, hopefully, if the board goes with it, which is take out some of the cumbersome restrictions that hinder small businesses from bidding on it, and why we always get stuck with the big companies, so that if we can, and a lot of that stuff that's in the contracts with us is, you know, showing your ongoing jobs or financials or this or that, which we really don't need someone to spend all that time on unless they're a contender. So I was hoping that part of the change of the procurement policy would be that when we get to that point with the RFP, that we'll have a little more, it'll be a little bit easier for the local guys to bid on the projects, you know, in the upfront. And then if they are a contender, then we would go back to them and say, okay, you do have to meet all of these criterias for the township, you know, that you're bonded, that you have workman's comp, that you have the right insurances, you know, and that you can meet all of those criterias. And I think if Chuck agrees or not, that was part of our discussion, was to do that. And we have, in the past, in the township, done, when the senior center was like a community project, when we built it the first time and added the addition and used it, we made it a little easier for local guys to participate in that. We did it with the Bailey, or with the Brady Lodge Heating Cooling. So in-house projects like that, that we can use local people, those things do help get them in the door. And then if they can qualify, they're good, you know, but they don't have to spend 6 months or 60 hours putting together a 50-page bid package like you would normally do on a big township contract project, you know, to be a contender. If that, I think that's.
But that's all assuming it will get changed prior to our proceeding with this project.
Yeah, but it would be in the time frame that would be necessary by the time that we were to get the drawings that, for the RFP and the engineering and everything. I think that, you know, me and Chuck and I would be working as hard as we can to get that as a user-friendly RFP as we could to make it more, you know, make it easier for the locals. And obviously, we're gonna have to do a lot better job of making sure that we literally contact the local people, not just put it on, the website, the township website or whatever they have, I don't know the name of it, BidNet, you know, that we actually reach out to people we know and say, hey, you know, would you participate, you know, as a hometown project like we did with the senior center?
Very good. Sorry, I was trying to look through my notes because maybe I'm the only one, but I remember us already voting on the Carlisle group to start because they've already started the survey. So what they presented to us back in February was a memorandum to do the survey, to do the design, and to do the engineering. And I mean, I don't have the minutes in front of me, but I'm pretty sure that we voted on them to proceed and move forward. So I don't know that that's something we need to even make a motion because we already did. I think we were trying to maybe go this direction to try to change the procurement policy, but I mean, we never made a motion for them to pull them off. So I mean, I think that we have the ability to have them just to continue the work that we already voted on them to do. Right?
I wasn't on the board in February, so I'm not
It would
sure.
Yeah.
probably not hurt to take the vote now and have it go through, or if it's not contradictive, if we believe it was yes in the first place and we have yes this time,
Just amend the
Not-
agenda,
yeah.
make a motion to amend the agenda.
And then that way you're
we can make a
covered
motion
and we
for
don't
it.
have to go
Okay.
back again.
Okay. Well, I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda to add to I-4 that we would have the Carlisle Wortman Group continue their work on the survey, the design plan, and the engineering and bid documents that they presented on February 18th of 2025.
Second.
All right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, very good. Thank you.
Now you have to read the motion. We added it, that.
Yeah, to
we
the
just-
agenda.
So we just added the agenda, now you're saying we need to have them.
Okay.
I would like a motion to proceed with Carlisle based on their previous presentation for the design of the park.
Board,
I'll second.
Okay.
Or is he second?
So just say all in favor.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right,
There we go.
it's approved. All right, very good. Is there anything else that we want to discuss in pertaining to the Pocket Park? I have something, but it sounds like you got something.
no, go ahead.
Okay.
Nope, not to the
Well,
Pocket Park.
I talked to a sign company. Nothing's gone very far, but there's a company inside of Independence Township that's off of Andersonville, and they work with a lot of municipalities for doing signs, including stonework and metal works and stuff like that. So they said it's like a 5 to 7 day turnaround time to get me a design and an idea of price, but that's something that we can look forward to, because I know it's not gonna, the sign is not gonna come until the park is done. It'll probably be like the capstone, but, you know, it's something that, I think it's great that it's a local company.
Can we have Carlisle Group to include it in their design that they're gonna put for the park?
Like where the sign will go?
Where it will go, or the image of it, you know, the design?
I mean, we have kind of an idea of a design. I would personally think it'd be probably better for the sign company to design something like that, since that's what they do and they know the materials that they work with. But they can definitely handle the, you know, it's gonna have to go on a
Footing.
some sort of footing. It's gonna have to have electrical, whether that be solar or something like that, so that we can, asset would be incorporated in the design.
Yeah, Carlisle's design would have the footing location and the footing on the plan to show the, you know, if it's 2 foot by 10 foot, I think we talked about something like that as a footprint to build the sign on top of. That would be, that location and all the plantings around it and all that, it just wouldn't be the picture of it, you know, itself.
Yeah. Brian, do we know the dimensions that the sign will have to be, or like maximum, or?
It can be 6 feet in height and 50 square feet in area per side. But that's the actual letters. So,
Not the backdrop.
yeah, so, you know, with stonework and everything else, you can make it bigger, it's just the letters themselves. Have to
Okay.
be within that framework.
That's pretty big.
Mhm.
Okay. All right, that just gives me, you know, a way to tell the sign company if, you know, obviously makes a difference if it's, you know, 2 feet or
10
20
feet.
10 feet, yeah. Before I said that, it sounded like you were gonna say something, Mr. Monroe.
No, I was just gonna, I just had a question in general about the budget that we had established. Does anybody have a copy of it with us tonight? Okay. I know we had some incidental in there, like for the flags and stuff. I just wondered at which point do we, like, you know, which point do we amend the budget for future stuff? I'm not sure where we do that. And not that we necessarily need the money, but that, that we, that it's allocated to the right place or not. I guess at the next, between now and the next meeting, we should review where we're at with that and any projected changes that we might want to make to it to cover the flags, the sign, the park, how we're gonna fund it when it happens, the engineering for, you know, for Noak and Fraus, like if all of that's in the, just to make sure we're, you know, we can make a list of all the things coming and make sure we have it budgeted correctly for those things. The big ticket items, I don't remember that Rick had done a good job of projections of how much every year we were gonna make. I'd have to find it in my file, but, to see where we land with the landscaping. Like if that's gonna be in this year, that's gonna probably be, if it's gonna be in this year's budget, next year's budget, you know, how that's gonna work. Cause we might only have enough money in the budget this year to put up the sign,
Yeah,
and not, and the flags, and then, or we'd have to go to the board for a budget amendment or borrow the money for the landscaping to be paid back in 2026, you know, with the money coming in. So I don't know, Chuck, how
Who's in charge of doing the budget?
We voted last
I thought it was you.
meeting.
Well, I mean, yeah.
You mean the DDA budget?
Yeah, the DDA budget.
DDA ultimately.
We do, the board.
Okay, so who's gonna do it, I guess is what I'm asking. Because I agree with you, we have to, without a doubt, we're gonna have to make amendments.
Yeah.
So we're gonna wanna do that. And then, let's just plan ahead. When's the next DDA meeting?
It'll be a
Next month.
month from third Wednesday
Which is
of
what?
June.
Third Wednesday of June, okay?
So we do need to get the projections from Greg, on the tax increment financing
Yeah.
money that's coming in and what the new projection is. I know it'll change a little bit with the car wash and all that, but just what the baseline is, because we gotta pay back another 60,000 for the property out of what we accumulate, but I think it's a couple $100,000 that we end up with for, by next year. And,
next
there's
year.
a scale that we go up and down by the end of the year or whatever. So once we know that scale, we can start picking and choosing what's in it and what's not and categorizing it. So maybe at the next meeting, David, we should, if we had all that data, we could talk about future projects and, and spending and if we need to borrow money and.
Do we get a quarterly bill for changing the signs too? Does that come to the DDA, or does that go to?
What do you mean?
Yeah, so
To
Yeah,
change
we
the
pay for
signs on
that.
Dixie, we get that, the DDA gets that quarterly bill then if we're gonna change these signs every quarter?
Mm-hmm.
yes.
If the DPW is charging us for it.
I would
yeah.
imagine we're gonna get a charge.
Yeah, so they would. That would be something in there too. So I think we're at that point to, because we're gonna get close to the point we're gonna wanna borrow money if we're gonna do something, or we're gonna have to sit on our hands until we accumulate it. And either way, we're gonna need to know what those numbers are the assessor can help us with, there'll just be a spreadsheet of each as it accumulates, and then we can pick and choose how we wanna do it. But that's probably something we wanna get ahead of.
Yep.
So the way I see it, by the next meeting, given the fact that trustee meetings move to once a month, we need to have a budget amendments all laid out for our next meeting. We need to have the budget amendments approved by this board at the next meeting, and then we have to determine and approve whether we're gonna wait for the funds to come in, or if we're gonna try to borrow from the general fund of the township. And all that should be decided at the next meeting, which means there's gonna be some work that's gonna have to be done between now and then.
Okay. And who's the treasurer of our
Sam.
board? Okay.
I am?
Yes, you are?
You're elected.
It says that on the sheet.
I don't have no, what?
Treasurer.
All right, well,
Will we have our?
I can work
estimate
on
from Carlisle at that
projections.
time?
Well,
That would
all
be
the
crucial
information
to
should
our
be
budget.
available, right?
Yeah, I would think that
We
we
need to- we need to know the TIF, we need to talk to the
So they
assessor,
might
what it's gonna
need
be.
to know that that's a deadline.
I can work with you on getting that information.
Yeah,
But you brought up the budget.
well, if the budget's gonna be a big deal, I
Yeah,
think that
for
we're, in my opinion, we would be, if we don't have the money, we're gonna wanna borrow the small amount to finish the park, and then we need to talk about
Yeah, there's
our
not enough.
future, right, not to finish the park, but it's not gonna be a
Okay.
huge number, but then we can talk about the bigger projects, because we're gonna wanna have, if we are gonna consider fixing the sidewalks and making it more user-friendly and doing infrastructure, we're gonna wanna have an engineering, a budget. We're gonna wanna get an idea of what the engineering is gonna be for those types of things, to forward project our budgets for doing that type of stuff. And I guess I would say, if we're gonna have another, if we don't have it, if there's other people who have other suggested projects, we should start talking about those so we can prioritize which ones do we wanna, do. The sidewalk moving one plays multiple parts because it makes it safer, it makes it nicer, and it gives us a way of planting trees along Dixie Highway, which we can also do. So if part of our goal is to plant street trees on Dixie Highway, then we're gonna wanna get, start working on what that would look like down the road. Maybe that's 3 years from now, that we're doing that, or, moving, utilities to, or filling in the, brick paver spots like, me and Gus have in front of our building that are all crumbling and dangerous to walk on, and converting them back to grass. We could piecemeal those into smaller parcels too with work from the road commission, but we're gonna need to have them and somebody involved to work with MDOT, because everything we're gonna do for the DDA is gonna affect the road right away, no matter what. So we gotta get a relationship and, you know, going with them.
Do we have any subcommittees here?
Yeah, several.
So do we have one for finance,
No.
budget? Do we have one that, for capital improvement type projects?
Not yet.
Okay, we need those two things right away.
Right, because we were
I
working,
mean,
we had
like
a
yesterday,
sign
we should
budget
have
and a
those.
landscape, you know, sign budget, landscape budget, flag I mean, subcommittees, you know, that we were working originally on the ideas. Now it's, like, I agree, it's time to get to the mechanics of it so we can fund the thing.
Okay, so we need a finance budget, and what was the other thing you mentioned?
Oh, some sort of capital improvement type.
Yeah, I think we should generate a list of capital improvements that we want to do, and I don't know if we want to include the east side of White Lake Road and Dixie, even though that got pushed back a year.
That'll be next year, right?
Huh?
That'll be next year, or?
No.
They moved it
To
another year
29.
back. Oh, to
To-
29?
29.
Okay, which is
That's
actually,
if.
which gives us time to react to that, because we've got easement issues and stuff like that for the drugstore. But that would be another, you know, that was something thrown out there as a goal that we could work on to piggyback off all their work to make sense. Moving of the sidewalks was one, street trees was one. I don't know about a crosswalk, you know, near, across from Bowman, where their salesmen run across through traffic every day, if that's, you know, I agree, like, if somebody coming up with ideas of how to make Dixie better is one subcommittee.
Yeah.
How to finance it and what order we should put it in would be another. You know, being your treasurer and all, you know, I feel compelled to say that, you know, I'm on board, so whatever you want the money for, I'm good, I'll approve it with my limited authority.
So you say you want to lead the finance committee, is that what I'm hearing?
I could go either way, because I'm good with working on infrastructure or with finance, whatever you guys, whatever, I don't care. Chuck's got more access to finance part, but once we get the TIF schedule and everything, it's gonna kind of paint its own picture, I think.
I'll do the budget.
Okay. So does anybody want to be on that committee for the finance?
Again.
There we go.
Okay.
And then Sam.
So you're gonna work on like calculating how much annually
Yep.
we're gonna bring
Yeah.
in, and then,
Well, work on the income and the expense, the revenue and
Okay.
expense.
anybody wanna work with me on future projects for the DDA as far as infrastructure goes?
Sure, I will.
Okay.
I know John would want to if he was
Yeah,
here.
John Doolin would. Gus, you
I'll
want any
join.
part of that?
Okay, I'll join.
Okay, where are we at here?
And I can be on the finance committee as well.
Okay, perfect, Ken and Gus, and I'm gonna ask John to be with me, and we're gonna do capital improvement. I'll also talk with Dave McKee at the DPW and Kevin at the Safety Path and see what outstanding issues and deficiencies that they see in the corridor that we could participate in helping them solve that they haven't had the money to do also.
Any other talking points, discussion before we adjourn?
I just have one announcement to make. I just went to the ribbon cutting at the Fireside Restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice place. Have you been there?
No, I have not yet.
It's very cool, and speakeasy in the basement's gonna be a quite pretty cool thing for people to go patronize, and the food was really good, and they did a first-class job. I was pretty impressed. We knew that they were local people meaning to do good, and they did everything they said they were gonna do, and it's a really first-class restaurant. I think people are gonna be really impressed with it.
Okay.
I've heard the same comments from other people.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things. So they have mocktails too, non-alcoholic drinks?
Yes, they do,
Sounds
and
like.
quite a menu of those.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw him showing that to somebody who drinks non-alcoholic beverages.
Very good. All right, thank you for sharing. I'm gonna make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Vote opposed? None? All right, thanks, guys.